Hi everyone, so this is our review of Module 3, Lesson 9. So here we're learning about the associative property. And remember how I talked about the word associate? Associative property. So when you associate with someone, you kind of hang out with them, right? And so we talked about associating with your friends, and it doesn't really matter in what order you kind of like hang out with your friends. They're your friends no matter what. So that's how we can sort of think about the associative property, and it doesn't really matter what order we do multiplication or addition, because it's going to be the same no matter what. So here's an example of associative property with addition, right? 1 plus 2 plus 3 is going to be the same as 2 plus 3 plus 1. It's going to be the same as 3 plus 1 plus 2, and so forth, okay? So we can say 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 1 is 6. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. No matter what order they're in, as long as they're all adding, they're going to give you the same number. So you can do the same thing with multiplication. Okay, so they give you examples where, like, let's say 3 times 12. And then they say, okay, well, use the associative property to help you solve that. It really doesn't matter which order these are in, right? So I'm going to use the commutative property. And I'm going to say, well, 3 times 12, I can also rewrite that as 12 times 3. For me, that's just easier to see. But your whole idea is that the larger number, you're trying to break apart, decompose, and make it easier for yourself. But because we're using the associative property, and you see here that this is multiplication, we need to think about what two numbers multiply together that are going to equal that 12. If you did what two numbers multiply together to equal 3, well, you have your answer already, 1 and 3, and that's not going to help you very much because 3 is a very easy number to deal with. 12, not so much. So you're trying to simplify that for yourself. So I'll actually show you what this looks like, okay? So what you're going to think about is what two numbers can multiply together and add up to 12 that are going to help you be easier. We know 1 times 12 is 12. That's not going to really help us, right? 3 times, well, sorry, skipped 1. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12. And that's it. And then, of course, you can do the reverse. 4 times 3, 6 times 2, 12 times 1. So this is not going to help us because we want to make this number easier for us. And 1 times 12 is just not going to work, right? You got that 12 in there. Let's see. Let's do 2 times 6 times 3. Or if you wanted to show sort of what this looks like, you could say 3 times, and then you're going to need two numbers that multiply to 12. 2 times 6. Well, right here, this is not going to help us because if we were to solve the number in parentheses first, this problem, it would equal 3 times 12, which is exactly what we have there. Not helpful. But if we use the associative property, it tells us that we can put this in any order we want because we're multiplying, and we can get the same answer. So let's fix this up a little bit. Let's say 3 times 2 times 6. Maybe that is going to help us out, right? So I just moved the parentheses over. So I'm doing this in a different order, but it doesn't matter because it's all multiplication. They all are hanging out, right? So 3 times 2 is 6 times 6. The answer is 36. So 3 times 12 equals 36. Let's see if that would have worked with 3 times 4, okay? But you know what? Let's write it the different way. I think it's so much easier to use the commutative property and just flip it around so that your bigger number is here. So we said 1 times 12, we weren't going to use that one. 2 times 6, we already used that one. So we have 3 times 4, okay? So now you're going to put parentheses here, and you have two numbers, when they multiply together, equal 12. That's 3 times 4. And then you finish the rest of the equation by just moving it over there. Okay, 3 times 4, that's 12, so that's not going to help because that gives us right back to 12 times 3. So let us write this a little bit differently. I can't do this because watch. That's 4 times 3. That's not going to help, right? That's going to equal 12. But I can move the numbers around. I can multiply them in any order. So I'm going to take 3 times 3. And then I'm going to take that 4. And I'm going to group them that way. And I can do that using the associative property. As long as the operations are the same and it's multiplication or it's addition, you're going to be okay, right? So 3 times 3 is 9 times 4. Hopefully that's easier for you. And that would be 36. If this wasn't easier for you, guess what you could do? You could do the same exact thing again. You would just have to look at that 9 and make it smaller, right? Okay, so let's try another one, right? Let's try 18 times 3. It could also look like this, right? You can do it this way. I prefer it this way, but just know that you have to make the bigger number an easier, two easier numbers to deal with, okay? So let's look at 18. We know that there are two numbers, they're multiplied together, and then we're going to multiply 3. We're going to bring that over. Well, I'm going to look for my factors, right? So 1 times 18, that's